These are this afternoon's top stories. Colombia ambassador presents credentials to the Governor General. Unseemly dressed teachers spark discussions in Guyana, and Pakistan to renew military courts for terror suspects. Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Today is Wednesday, the 22nd of March 2017. I am Shaira Flanders. Nationally, on Tuesday, March 14th, His Excellency Roberto Garcia Marquez of the Republic of Colombia presented his credentials to the Governor General, His Excellency S.W. Tapley Seaton, GCMG, CVO QCJP, as non-resident ambassador extraordinary and plenipotentiary of the Republic of Colombia to St. Kitts and Nevis. In his presentation to the Governor General, Ambassador Garcia pledged his commitment to further strengthen cooperation between Colombia and St. Kitts and Nevis and to deepen relations in trade and investment. Ambassador Garcia outlined his government's efforts for the assistance already provided to the Federation on the Colombian cooperation strategy for the Caribbean Basin Initiative through the South-South Cooperation Special Projects Program in the areas of education, agriculture, and tourism. However, he expressed interest in discussing other areas of mutual benefit and his country's aim in offering additional technical assistance in capacity building in areas such as disaster management and risk reduction, agriculture and the cassava crop production, diplomatic training and bilingualism. St. Kitts and Nevis established diplomatic relations with the Republic of Colombia in January of 1984. The further strengthening of bilateral relations between St. Kitts and Nevis and the Republic of India was discussed on Tuesday, March 21, 2017, when India's High Commissioner to the Twin Island Federation paid a courtesy call on Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris. His Excellency Venkatachalam Mahalingam met with Dr. Harris at the office of the Prime Minister at government headquarters, where several matters of mutual interest were addressed. Prime Minister Harris described the meeting as highly productive and stated that quite a few projects are to be realized in due course. St. Kitts and Nevis and the Republic of India have enjoyed diplomatic relations for many years. As a Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa or BRICS country, India has proven to be in the upper echelon of the developing countries. This presents an opportunity for the Federation to benefit from the soon-to-be established BRICS Developing Bank, which will rival all the institutions of the Washington Consensus. According to reports, the rates and conditions of the bank are already promised to be more favorable to developing countries like St. Kitts and Nevis. Prime Minister Harris and His Excellency Mahalingam discussed the possibility of cooperation in this area, as India has accomplished much in e-governance. Further cooperation in the field of diplomacy, financial management and cyber-preservation, all areas where the Republic of India has offered scholarships and professional training, was also explored in Tuesday's meeting. With a population of 1.2 billion people, the opportunity for St. Kitts and Nevis to market its citizenship by investment program in that country was also discussed by the two officials. Nevis is now on par with its counterparts in the region as far as its air traffic control equipment is concerned. A new U.S. $430,000 voice command and control system, or VCS system, funded by the St. Kitts and Nevis Sugar Diversification Foundation, or SIDF, was recently installed and commissioned at the Vance W. Amory International Airport Air Traffic Control Tower. It replaces an outdated system which was installed and commissioned since 2000 with assistance from the European Union, or EU. Increasing difficulties in sourcing replacement components for the outdated system forced the Nevis Air and Seaport Authority, or NASPA, to invest in the new system. Colin Doe, chairman of the NASPA Board of Directors, said they had sought assistance from the Eastern Caribbean Civil Aviation Authority, or ECCA, to select a system similar to others already operating at other air traffic control towers in the Caribbean. With the new system in place, NASPA would better be able to maintain the equipment and find suitable technicians to assist. Doe expressed gratitude to ECCA for their assistance and his satisfaction with the suppliers. Moving on to news on the regional scene, teachers sporting tattoos have attracted the attention of Guyana's National Center for Educational Resource Development, or NSERDS. HGP News recently spoke with NSERDS Director Mrs. Jennifer Cumberbatch, who explained that unprofessionalism in the teaching fraternity is unacceptable. HGP's Royden James has the details on that story.
There is now a call for teachers at all levels to be role models, not only for their students, but also for the wider society. Mrs. Jennifer Cumberbatch is the director of the National Center for Education Resource Development, NSERD, and this very topic she raised at a recent conference hosted for members of the Guyana Teachers Union. She spoke with Nightly News exclusively and pointed out that professionalism in the teaching profession is evidently waning.
It was very good for us to have a discussion on what is professionalism and how we display a high degree of professionalism and why it's important. You see, teachers are molders of the nation, and teachers have to recognize that this is very important. They have a very, very important role to play in our nation's life.
Mrs. Cumberbatch stressed the need for teachers to take up their roles more seriously and added that just by their actions, the teaching fraternity has the potential to influence positive changes in the Guyanese society.
So we've recognized that our teachers who mold the nation, our teachers have a very important part to play. So they have to ensure that they show their professionalism, because there's so many persons looking at them. Our little boys and girls are looking at them. Our parents, their fellow teachers, the whole community, the entire nation is looking at them, and they affect eternity really.
Mrs. Cumberbatch noted that teachers must, at all times, be conscious of their actions by virtue of their influence on society. Among other things, mannerism among teachers was a big part of the discussion, she noted.
We've had many discussions over cell phones, over tattoos, over how short is short for the clothes, over how tight is tight for the pants, and so on. And so this has been very fruitful, and I know that they are going to take these discussions, the main parts of these discussions, right back to the various branches so that we can lift our profession.
All the statements made by the NSERD director were fully endorsed by the Guyana Teachers Union. Royden James, HGP Nightly News.
In Barbados, IECA Representative Ina Harvey says better systems need to be put in place to ensure imported foods are safe. We hear more in this Nation News Barbados report.
An agro-industry expert says foods exported from Barbados are generally of a high quality, but there are some concerns about what we import. Local representative for the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture, Ina Harvey, made the comments on Tuesday. She was speaking on the sidelines of a food safety seminar for manufacturers and exporters.
A lot of the foods that we import come through all sorts of value chains, all sorts of supply chains, and we're very often not aware of what has happened to that food before it reaches our shelves. Sometimes we're only made aware when there is an alert that says there's something on the shelves that you should stop buying. And sometimes those alerts come after we've bought the item. So putting these systems in place is so very critical. Our refusals at ports of entry over the last 5 years have not been terrible. That's not to say that we don't have to improve, because food safety and systems like these keep us on the alert, allow us to put in place our own house, put our house in order for our domestic market, because our population deserves healthy and safe food, more so. We have a very huge tourism population, a lot of them from US markets, and they expect the same levels of food safety in their tourism market as they do in their home market. So we have to improve all that we do and make those refusals 0%.
Ms. Harvey also expressed concern about labeling.
Some of the labels have languages we don't understand. Some of even the font sizes we can't read. We have quite a lot of chronic non-communicable diseases, and therefore we have to ensure that our food supply is safe and healthy.
Moving on to news on the international scene, U.S. President Donald Trump has made a rare visit to Congress to ask Republicans to support a replacement health care plan. The bill takes apart ex-President Barack Obama's signature Affordable Health Care Act, known as Obamacare. In Kentucky, the number of uninsured has been cut in half under the program, but it is also a state that voted overwhelmingly for Trump. We hear more in this report.
Corbin, Kentucky, the birthplace of Kentucky Fried Chicken and the heart of the state's coal country. While KFC has thrived, the coal industry that once employed so many has declined. The unemployment rate here is nearly twice the national average. But thanks to the Affordable Care Act, the percentage of people without health insurance has fallen dramatically, from 20% to 6%. These residents all voted for President Trump and all have insurance under the ACA. But some can't find a doctor nearby who'll take their plan.
You're paying a lot of money for a plastic card carrying it around. It ain't no benefit.
There's also a belief that too many people are taking advantage of government entitlements.
The ones that really are destitute and cannot pay anything do have insurance. So I think that's what all the outrage about the expanded Medicare is.
President Trump, who received twice as many votes as Hillary Clinton here in Kentucky, vowed to repeal the Affordable Care Act and replace it with something better. But projections that 14 million people could lose their coverage in the next year under the Republican proposal have many here worried.
Just a couple months ago.
33-year-old Aaron Lewis currently qualifies for free coverage as part of an expanded Medicaid policy for the poor. But the Republican plan will scale back the funding that made that possible.
I work full-time and I work hard and I still can't afford health insurance. There's lots of people like me, not just people mooching off the system. And ultimately it becomes down to an ethical question, I believe. Is someone entitled to see a doctor and not die? I think so. That's not an entitlement, that's a necessity and a human right, really.
Kentucky Senator Rand Paul wants to go even further than the Republican leadership. He says repeal the Affordable Care Act now and figure out how to replace it later. Kathy Aller, who has registered hundreds of people for the program, worries about what will happen in the meantime.
Everybody has to be insured. Everybody. It's like driving a car. We have to have insurance because if we wreck, guess what? They take our house.
And yet she and many Kentuckians are pinning their hopes on a plan which even Republicans agree will leave fewer people covered. Kristen Salumi, Al Jazeera, Clay County, Kentucky.
Pakistan's parliament has approved a bill that would extend the use of military courts for another 2 years. The amendment allows the military to try any suspect on what it calls, quote, terrorism-related charges. But human rights groups say it denies those on trial a chance at a fair defense. More on that story.
This is Pakistan's National Assembly, the lower house of parliament. Its members have just voted to allow the use of controversial military courts to try those suspected of terrorism-related charges. But some political parties like the Pakistan People's Party and the Jamiyat-e-Ulama-e-Islam, a right-wing religious party, said they're concerned.
The military courts are always considered as a discriminatory law where the innocent people, along with the religious parties, are on their target, which is not acceptable at any cost. But if the government wants to have speedy justice system, then they should enhance the capacity of the judiciary by providing more security to the judges and the witnesses.
The decision to use the military courts was prompted by a 2014 attack on Army Public School that killed 130 students. People across Pakistan were appalled, and all the major political parties set aside their differences to empower military courts to deal with the rising wave of attacks. The lack of a robust civilian judicial system and the threat faced by judges led to a virtual collapse of Pakistan's legal system. But 2 years on, many here say the civilian courts are nowhere near to meeting the challenge. The new amendment will extend the use of military courts by another 2 years. But civil rights activists say the courts could deny suspects a fair trial.
There was no need for the military courts. And I am against the military courts in principle because they are closed trials, in-camera trials. The defense lawyers are not permitted. No appeal in the Supreme Court is permitted. So is this the rule of law? Is this upholding the fundamental human rights of the Constitution of Pakistan, guaranteed to every citizen of Pakistan?
Pakistan is due to hold its general election in less than 2 years, and it will be up to the next government to decide the future of the military courts. But it's not clear if that will be enough time for the country's judicial system to step up and take over. Kamal Haider, Al Jazeera, Islamabad.
And now for the weather. Present weather is partly sunny. Winds are from the east-southeast to east at 14 to 16 miles per hour. Today will be mostly sunny with a high of 79 degrees Fahrenheit. Tonight will be breezy with an overnight low of 76 degrees Fahrenheit. Sunset today will be at 6:22 p.m. and sunrise tomorrow will be at 6:20 a.m. That brings us to the end of the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am Shaira Flanders. Have a good one.